Working on this with work sessions, and this will be our first opportunity to present this publicly. So Administrator Bennett, put on your CPA hat.
Okay, yes, I'll trade hats down here. Well, as you mentioned, so tonight's our preliminary budget hearing, first public budget hearing on the budget. As you guys know, we've been working on this for a few months now. Had a work session last week, and pretty well I think we solved everything and have a balanced budget that we'll present to you tonight. So if you bear with me for a few minutes, we'll buzz through some of this. If I can get it moving. Maybe.
Put on your IT hat.
You might need to.
That's right.
It's here on the screen. I don't know why it's not up on that screen. Really?
David, you know how to? Okay.
I'm older than him.
Well, that didn't help, did it? Well, it's there, it just won't display. And when I moved it, it stayed on that.
Is it on the right foot?
It's probably Polite touched something down here. Probably did.
Source?
Yeah, yeah. And then, I think it's, no, that doesn't make sense.
See how it's not on there? I don't know. I was trying to play it. Apparently in this year's budget, we need to budget for a new projector. Or maybe a new operator, I don't know what it should be.
I think it's software, whatever it is.
Okay, we can do it the old-fashioned way if we need to.
Turn it off.
It's okay. I'll just do it. You guys got paper. I can do it that way. Got me. Okay, we'll go without.
Yeah, we got extra books, don't we?
So you guys got the books, and actually, we've got a few copies here. If anyone would like one to follow along as I read, you can follow them. I might not follow. Okay, so as you flip through your books here, you'll see, first of all, preliminary budget highlights, total requested revenues. You can see tonight we're presenting $101,936,577 is our balanced budget. Just some highlights for you as far as some of the big changes in this budget. You can see property taxes, as we've discussed before. We show an increase of $1.6 million from property taxes. That's an overall assessment growth of 3.8%. And as you guys know, Zone 1, which is eastern Allegany County, actually saw about 11% growth this year. So we're trending positive there. That's based on the real estate market and strong sales. And of that number, $653,000 of its real property tax. Another $935,000 of the increase comes from public utilities. So that would be like Allegany Power, CSX, Columbia Gas, they've seen increases as well. Income tax, as you can see, is the real big gainer here as we present tonight's budget. $2.6 million growth there. That's continued strong performance against essentially everyone's thoughts of where this might have been a couple years ago. This is a statewide thing. Everyone is seeing very positive income tax. It continues to trend up, and we actually think we've budgeted a little bit conservatively here, but we want to sort of watch where the economy goes over the next year. So nice growth for now. And then the other big one is unexpended fund balance. We did use a little over $1 million more this year than last. That was by design this time around. As you guys know, we had a $4.3 million surplus. So what we've done is essentially apply part of that surplus here in this budget. So we'll essentially use half, keep half. The rest will remain in our fund balance. Our fund balance is in a strong position. We've got 2 months' worth of revenues reserved. We've got an additional 3% still reserved for budget stabilization, and we have the $2 million in excess. So we're at a safe place in fund balance, so it's okay to use a little bit this year. As you flip over to the next page, you're going to look at expenditures and the same kind of thing. These are our big changes. As you guys know, salaries and fringe is a big part of the budget here. What's projected in this budget is based partially on action you're going to take a little later tonight in our agenda with an additional 2% COLA for county employees. So that would be a total of a 4% COLA for county employees incorporated into this budget. 2% would be effective now, another 2% July 1. Also baked into that number for salaries and fringe is health insurance. As we talked about, everyone, and you heard during your budget hearings, everyone is seeing increases in health insurance. We're not immune to that either. We're actually looking at double-digit increases in our health insurance for the year. Thankfully, we've done very well over the last few years. We have a nice reserve in our health insurance fund. So we're going to sort of watch how this goes and soften the blow a little bit this year and broadcast a 5% increase in health insurance to both employees and our budgets. So that's all in that number. Also, what you'll see is appropriations to major outside agencies. You can see that's up $811,000. Fortunate year, you had a lot of requests from agencies asking for a little more money. No one was outlandish. We've been able to fully fund every request that came in the door. So I think that's a good thing, and it'll do great work for some of our outside agencies. So Board of Ed, as you guys know, came in and their maintenance of effort was actually down. All they asked for was flat funding, which we keep in place. AC will get a $500,000 increase. The health department will get an increase. HRDC and the library will all see increases. So it's a rare year where you're able to say you're funding everyone at the request level. As you flip to the next page, you'll see these are just our bigger tax rates. You'll see it top in red, no change in the rates. And in fact, for the real property tax rate, all but the unincorporated property tax rate actually dipped a little bit. So income tax at 305, and we'll talk more about that later. Real property tax at 0.975 for unincorporated. Recordation stays the same, and the homestead, which you moved a few years ago, is at 4%. And that would put us state ranking 9th lowest property tax rate, 10th lowest income tax rate. So you're in the bottom third in both categories. Moving to the next page, little pie graph of our revenues and where they come from. I'll just point out a few things here. We've already talked about a lot of the revenues. You can see in the blue, real property tax. That number actually used to be more than 50% of our budget, and because of the changes in property taxes over the last 10 years, that's come down some. It's finally starting to rebound a little bit. Income tax is actually going the other way. It's growing. This used to be well under 30%. Now it's obviously at 31%. Disparity, thankfully, continues to hold its own and stay right where it's been for more than a decade now, so $8.9 million for us. One thing I'll point out, a lot of people think a lot of our budget's made up of state and federal funding. It's really not. Actually, a pretty small part of our budget, just 3.7%. And I'll note the ARPA funds that we've talked about at length are not included in this number. So they're not part of the general fund budget. We keep those funds outside of the general fund. You can also see unexpended fund balance, while we're using more this year, still only 2.4%. So we're keeping that pretty low. We're obviously, this is your savings, if you would. You don't want to build your budget on your savings. You're only using 2%, so we're at a nice level there. Flipping to the next page, just a couple of our other funds, just more or less for reference right now. Really focus in general fund tonight, but just a few things to point out as we go right down the list. You'll see the Rocky Gap Slots funds, almost $2.7 million. While they had a little pause during COVID, they've hit the ground running as they've opened back up. Month over month, they continue to do very well and improve. So they've been a nice revenue source for us. Transit fund, $2.6 million. We get a lot of bang for a buck out of this fund. We actually only have about 20% into this fund of general fund money. The rest would be state and federal monies. I'll also point out the revolving building fund there. That's economic development. Those are our shell buildings. We've done very well there over the last pretty much 14 years of leasing buildings out and using those revenues to bring in new business and also to fund our economic development operations. So just a few things there to point out. Next slide. Probably if we had to pick one slide out of this presentation, it would be this dollar bill, because it's an easy representation of the things we do throughout the year. So you can see on the left side of it, education's almost half of the entire budget, 39%, made up of really two categories. That would be Board of Ed and Allegany College. So they make up the lion's share of that. Public safety in the middle of the green. This number's really grown over time, as you might imagine, from EMS. You know, as we did this presentation 15 years ago, EMS really didn't exist. And now, because of how sort of the volunteers have gone, we've had to pick that up. So you've seen public safety grow. So within that number is the sheriff at $4.9 million, our detention center at about $9.3 million, EMS at about $5.6 million. And I will say their growth has slowed. We think we've pretty well hit all the places we need to now. Last year's 5.3. It's a very small growth there, and really only because of COLAs and health insurance. 911's a little over $3 million, and our fire company appropriations is just over $1 million. Public Works, you can see in the orange section there, Adams Group. Engineering makes up about $1.1 million of that, and our roads department makes up $8.8 million. There's a lot of other activities in there, but those are the two biggest. I will point out within that number and those expenditures, we talk about this a lot, about $1.1 million of highway user revenue this year. And as Commissioner Brody certainly knows, when he first came to office, that number was about $4.8 million. So we've never recovered there. We've gotten a little more from the state, but still well under what it was 10 to 15 years ago. General government in gray, top right, is only 10%, and we try to keep this number as low as possible. That's paying for offices like my own office, like Lee's office, tax office. This would be like a nonprofit. You want to see that your dollars are going towards services and the goals of government, not being spent on general things. So happy to keep this number pretty low. And then one little one, the smallest part of this dollar, you can see in the very bottom right, is 0.9% for economic development. I just say this just to point it out. A lot of people would say, well, county's not spending enough on economic development. Well, the RBF fund that we talked about earlier actually picks up the bill for economic development. It does so well generating sales from our leases of our shell buildings. We can pay for our entire operation of economic development outside of the general fund. So in this case, it's actually a good thing for us. It's given us some flexibility. As you turn your page to another pie chart, we just kind of break out our expenditures a little differently here just to show where they're going to. And I won't spend long here, but you can see the blue on the left side, appropriations. Just about 50% of our dollars go directly out the door. to the outside agencies we just talked to. So Board of Ed, Allegheny College, Health Department, HRDC, Library, many others. In that number, they're going right out the door to those services. Salaries and fringe and sort of the orangish yellow there, you can see it's only 36% of our budget. A lot of people would assume that's much higher. Being government, it's actually not here. It's just over a third. I will point out, we'll have to watch this going forward. Capital outlay, we've essentially reduced it to 0 this year. Going forward, we're really going to have to watch that number because it obviously can't stay at 0 forever. We have to keep up with some of our equipment needs, our building needs. So we'll have to just watch that going forward. The next slide we've used for years. A lot of people will want to talk about double taxation between City of Cumberland or City of Frostburg and Allegheny County. This just points out all the services that we provide that they don't. It's just by design of how our government works. So you can see 64% of our budget actually goes to services that the municipalities don't provide. So we're talking about Board of Education, our detention center, 911, Allegheny College. You can read down through the list. 26 services there that the commissioners provide for that the municipalities don't have to worry about. And the rest we make up for in tax differential. We obviously offset municipal tax bills by the amounts that we spend on roads and police and those sort of things. So when you look at the tax differential, we give up about $2.4 million of property tax a year from tax differential. So that's to lower the tax bill for municipal residents. Next slide, debt service transfer. It's only $1.4 million for this year. Our goal is $3 million. This is a little bit arbitrarily low right now because of our refunding and how it was timed. So we'll actually see this number tick back up closer to $3 million for next year. But you can see some of the projects that make up all of our debt. Obviously, Board of Ed is the lion's share of that. Public safety expenditures, economic development. We do all the capital needs for Allegany College. So it's all rolled in here. Right now, we're in really excellent shape on our debt and our debt service. There's tons of capacity there, but if you do go borrow more, you also have to pay for more. So we just have to watch this as we move forward.
Jason, what's our bond rating currently?
So we're AA rated with both S&P and Moody's. And to be quite honest, we've moved it up a couple times over the years. We've gotten it as high as we can get it until our economy were to expand massively. We just don't have the base here to go any higher. So AAA is as high as you can go. State of Maryland's AAA. A lot of the bigger counties in the state, Montgomery, PG, would be AAA. We would have to have massive growth to go any farther. So really good shape. And they base that on financial policies, debt load, payment history, almost like personally with a credit rating. Same thing. So we're in really good shape. And I'll point out the things that go into this. All these capital items will be discussed in 3 weeks at our next public meeting as we do the CIP. Next slide. We historically have done a slide for Allegheny College and the Board of Ed. This one's Allegheny College. And I won't spend much time at all here. You can see the increased appropriation. I will point out that you can also see this is their first major new funding from us in a long time. They got a little bump a few years ago, but all in all, they've held the line for many years for us. You can see about midway there, the enrollment, it actually took a little dip with COVID. They're beginning to recover now, so we look for that to continue to trend up. And I'll point out, we also give $360,000 a year from Rocky Gap funding. That is not included in these numbers, so that sits outside of this. Next slide is kind of similar for the Board of Ed, and lots of numbers there. I won't talk about much except for you can see the funding for this year is about the same. If you look at last year's, we actually budgeted $31.1 million, but as soon as we adopted the budget, some of the Kerwin Commission funding decisions kicked in, so we had to amend the budget, and we'll present a budget amendment to you guys very soon for the current year. So really, they requested flat funding for the year. And you can see their enrollments coming back up a little bit. It does include pre-K this year because of how they have to count pre-K now, so it actually looks a little bit inflated. But they are coming back up a little bit from COVID. And as you guys know, we agreed to fund $1.5 million at Greenway Avenue for that project, and that's commencing, moving along pretty well right now. If you drive up by, you can see major changes up there. Really, that's it from us with this. For me, I just want to thank Pam Diaz and Kirsten O'Donnell in the finance office. They did the lion's share of the work putting this together, collecting the budgets, coming up with the estimates. So they've been sort of the brains of the operation to get us to where we're at. As you guys know, we'll intend to, in May 12th, we're going to have CIP presented. We'll also have water and sewer presented by Adam, so we'll include those pieces. We'll adopt the budget May 26th. The only outstanding item I have for you guys is if we want to continue the discussion on income tax. You guys should, definitely discuss potentially moving that rate down. As we talked in the work session last week, to do so, we'll need to have a resolution, but, you guys will have to kind of decide where you want to move that rate to, and then we'll be happy to bring a resolution to you in 3 weeks if you know where you want to go.
Yeah, let's, any public comments on the budget first? Okay. Why don't we just talk about the budget first? Commissioner Cavarelli, anything?
Nothing to add, if it's any help, I think that we are in agreement, if I could speak for all of us, that a 3.03 rate would be satisfactory, if we wanted to move forward with that, if everyone's in agreement.
Commissioner Brody?
I must tell you, this is a much easier budget than the first several in office to work on, so it's we're finally being able to start to help some of our departments that we both depleted or got rid of or cut to the bone in 2011 and 12, so let's move forward.
Absolutely, and it's a lot easier when you got a $4.2 million surplus to work with, but you look at some of these numbers and when you break it down, even the Alleghany College of Maryland piece, we're increasing our funding by $500 a student. I mean, that's significant. The sheriff's office, between them and the detention center, almost a $2 million increase for our officers. And obviously costs are going up. And a lot of times the county, oh, there we go.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, go to slide
I have no
17.
idea what happened.
It changed several times there.
And I don't even know what I hit, or who knows? Well, there it is.
But you look at this, and even with a 4% COLA for staff, which inflation being out of control, I think is absolutely needed, we still have money left over. And I absolutely think some of that needs to go back to the citizens, to the residents that are paying these bills. The county hasn't cut income taxes since 1998. So I know no one up here was around back then in these positions, but it's tremendous. And I look back 2 years when we sat here during COVID, and we had that call with the comptroller's office, and the sky was falling. Rocky Gap was closed. We were losing, I think, $25,000 a week from that. We were losing about $60,000 a month in hotel motel taxes because all the hotels were closed. They were talking about income tax going down, and it didn't happen. The opposite happened. We're collecting about $5.5 million more in income tax now than we did 3 years ago. Properties are worth more than ever. You see that with the real estate market. So it's my hope if we're able to cut this to 3.03 this year, that you gentlemen or whoever's here next year would take the next step and get it down to 3%, hopefully. And I think that this is the most solid budget that I've definitely seen in 8 years here, Jason. And thank you for all your work as finance director for the first 7, and as administrator and finance director on this one, because it's easy to make them look good, but when you look under the hood at these, the proof's in the pudding. The best bond rating you can have, debt service is well within our means, and we're putting money back where it needs to go, and that's with citizens and our employees. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So do we need outside of this, do we just need a consensus for a resolution for the next meeting then?
That's what it sounds like you guys are saying, 3.03.
I'm good with that.
Yeah, we'll advertise it and put it on the May 12th
May 12th
meeting.
agenda, yeah,
Yep.
and just for clarity, that'll be about a $200,000 annual cost. In fiscal year '23, it's only $100,000 because it won't become effective until January of 2023. It's calendar year based. So we'll update the budget. The little bit of change will be pushed through fund balance in this case, with your permission, and we'll move on. I mean, obviously, as finance director, this isn't ideal, but at the same time, we do have a good surplus there and a nice fund balance, so we can certainly manage this. So that's what we'll bring back to you in a couple weeks.
Absolutely. And
Thank you.
and Jason, when you say fund balance, you mean part of that's the surplus, that's
Correct.
just sitting there?
Absolutely.
Yep,
Yeah,
very good.
yep.
Okay, moving on. I'll wait for you to get up here. Our action agenda is Resolution 22-7. This is North Branch Pumping Station Authorization. Mr. Bennett.
So Commissioners, Resolution 22-7 would allow us to close on a loan with USDA in the amount of $1,092,000 for the North Branch Pump Station. This was authorized originally with Bond Bill 3-21 back last September. We're now at the end of the project and ready to close the loan with USDA, so it would be 2% for 40 years, about $9,900 a quarter of a payment. That'll come from the users in the Mexico Farm System, and we just seek your approval so we can go ahead and get this loan closed.
Great. Gentlemen, any discussion?
No, sir.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, Mr. Bennett, item number 3, it's a 2% COLA for county employees.
So good news, hopefully here, as we discussed last week during our budget work session, we've certainly seen the cost of living escalate rapidly with inflation near 9% right now. And with both the surplus in our budget and the need for our employees to pay their bills, you guys discussed giving an additional 2% COLA immediately to employees. We did incorporate that into the budget we presented tonight, and this would simply authorize us to go ahead and do that. And if you agree, we think we can make this be effective May 1, get it reflected in the first pay in May for county employees. And it's about a $500,000 cost.
Great. I think it's absolutely needed. And Jason said there'd be 2% on May 1st and another 2 on July 1st.
Another 2 on July 1.
Is that your motion, sir?
I'll make a motion on item 3.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that affects every county employee except the commissioners.
You guys are getting 10% raises,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, right. Hey, we're lucky we don't get a pay cut, yeah. All
We're
righty.
not Congress, we can't do that.
That's right. All righty. Moving to our consent agenda, we got a few items here we're going to pull out or table or talk about. So let's, Mr. Bennett.
How about I'll read through all of them.
Okay.
And then you guys can tell me which ones you want to change, move, delete, whatever.
Very good.
So item 4 is the scattered sites housing program. It would be to accept an offer of $43,000 from Romeo Flores for a property at 629 Bedford Street in Cumberland. Item 5 is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, or ERAP, grant acceptance in the amount of $850,000 to offer emergency rental assistance that would be through HRDC and social services. Item 6 is the agreement with the BBUM Promotions LLC for the Fairgrounds Racetrack, so they could conduct racing there for 1 year at $800 per race that they conduct. Item 7 is supply of Allegheny County waterline piping to award the contract to Core in Maine to provide that in the amount of $272,059. Item 8 is also for Allegheny County waterline construction materials, also awarded to Core in Maine in the amount of $167,385,000. Item 9 is the Bowling Green Crescent Town Sewer Replacement and Point Repair Project, permission to advertise bids. Item 10 is the Bowling Green Crescent Town Frostburg Barrowville Sewer Relining Project, also permission to advertise. And item 11 is Resolution 22-6, which would amend county rules and regulations for county employees. Three kind of administrative things in there, an EEOC update, physical exam requirements, and an update on the Maryland State Retirement sick leave allocations.
Great. Okay, gentlemen, is there a motion for items 4, 6, 9, 10, and 11?
I'll make a motion that we accept the consent agenda with the items you mentioned.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Gentlemen, item number 5, we've already done one round of, they call it emergency rental assistance, ERAP 2. This is the second round, you know, and basically what it is if you're directly or indirectly affected for COVID through 2025, you don't have to pay your rent. You can get free rent through the government. And I don't know how long this is going to continue. I don't know how long the federal gravy train is going to keep rolling. It's going to stop at some point, and we're going to be left holding the bag. So at some point, I think that people need to move on, get a job. We have plenty of job openings, and the people that are working, you know, they can't afford gas to get back and forth to work. It's the people that keep not paying their rent, and you can directly or indirectly blame COVID. You don't have to have COVID. You just have to certify that it's impacted your life in some way. And this money keeps rolling 22, 23, 24, 2025. So I'm not going to vote for it. I think we've done enough. The federal government's done enough. And so I'm a no on item number 5. Is there a motion?
Is there a time frame on this particular item that it would have to be implemented by or not?
So I'll look to Mr. Nedved in the audience for that. I don't know the date on it.
Now, and the money, pretty much this money is going to be used up. The way things are going, this money will be used up this year. That's where I'm path to. Previously, it was, we're on path to use it up this year.
Okay.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if we don't accept it here in Allegheny County, it'll just get redistributed.
Yeah, this money is coming via the state of Maryland. The state of Maryland, the Department of Housing and Community Development is determining everybody's allocation, and that this is our allocation. It will not go back to the Treasury. Basically, what will happen is if we don't accept the money, it will go to other counties, probably bigger counties, such as Prince George or Montgomery. And to be fair, they'll probably swallow our amount up in a couple of weeks.
Sure.
Yeah, it'll just be gone very quickly.
Just my question was, these particular funds do not go to the individual. They go to landlords that may have been affected by this.
Correct.
I'm okay if we table it, but maybe we could have a discussion. I think that they've been hurt through this period, particularly, and maybe it's something we could look at again for another agenda, but if we want to table it now, I can understand that.
Well, I agree with both of you, because this is, I'm sitting here thinking about this. We got a massive problem in countrywide. We got our workforce is sitting at home getting paid to sit at home. And I'm not going to do myself any favors tonight, but I'm going to let it rip here anyhow. Because the only one I see having money and money to spend is the people that's not working. And when 10 months ago, 12 months ago, when we met with the landlord association, renters association, there was one big problem. They couldn't collect the rent and they couldn't evict anyone. Everyone was protected. The only reason I would even be in the favor of this is because it would put them whole. Because it was funny, the banks was foreclosing on apartments that was being rented. Of course, they wasn't allowed to foreclose, but it put everyone in arrears because people living there didn't have to pay the rent. Whether they could pay it or not was irrelevant. They didn't have to pay their rent. And someone that used to work in the water side, you knock on their door to tell them that their water bill was due or something. They'd say, oh, I got the money to pay it, but they said, I ain't got to, so you're not getting paid. When you met with the landlord association, we was hearing a lot of the same stuff. I'm with you, Jake, on this. I don't know when this is going to end. We got to quit subsidizing a workforce to sit at home while businesses are struggling. Half the restaurants up through LaVale, Frostburg can't stay open on Sunday anymore. Mario's was closed 3 days a week because he couldn't get staff to work. There's people still here, but they're paid to stay home. The downside of not accepting this is it punishes the landlords that had to suck it up and carry everyone else through all of this. So Dave, I'm with you. I would make a motion that we table it for a little bit to revisit this and let us reach back out to the Landlords Association and make sure this, and look into this, make sure this money goes where it's supposed to go. Because I'm not interested in subsidizing people to stay home just for the heck of it.
Right.
So,
It's subsidizing unemployment,
yeah.
you know.
Well,
acceptable.
and maybe, and that's fine, we can table it. I'd also like to hear from HRDC
Yes.
and DSS and say, look, did you lose your job? If something legitimate happened, I think everyone up here is totally in favor.
Absolutely.
But if you haven't been impacted in that sense, if you haven't lost income and you can't prove it, then why is the government giving you free rent?
Right.
Come on.
Well, the good thing is there with that and you saying that, we have a very good resource in Ms. Winterberg and Ms. McKenzie that will give us a straight answer on that real quick.
Very good. All right, is there a motion to table item 5?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Gentlemen's item 7 and 8.
And Nate, I will speak on that behalf. So we're looking at trying to get some inventory back in our stockpiles at the utilities level because everything is, again, unavailable in this country. If anyone's noticed, for some reason, all of us probably worked in an industry through this COVID times where everyone that I was around anyhow was required to be at work. All non-essential employees were not. The pipe industry as a whole was essential workers. None of these places shut down, but all of a sudden, everyone's inventory for everything imaginable is gone. So it depleted the counties, Frostburg's, City of Cumberland, countrywide. So we're trying to get our inventories back. My problem with this one is we only had one person bid it. If it's a good price, I would just like to prove it. I'd like to have a little time to look into it. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to table items 7 and 8. I don't want to stop it because pipe right now, if you order, it's 10, 12 months out. Adam's trying to build projects right now that you don't know if you're going to get materials to actually do the projects or not. So,
Adam, we just had one bid on that. Okay. All right. That's fine. Is there a motion to table items 7 and 8?
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Bennett?
Nothing else other than just to thank all of the operating departments, all the outside agencies as we work through budget. It's a big convoluted process, to be quite honest, and everyone really works hard to try to make sure we get the right thing for the taxpayers. So I just thank a whole bunch of people for their part in this.
Great.
And thank you guys for your support.
Attorney Beaman?
I don't have anything to add this evening. Thank you, Commissioner.
Great. Mr. Caparelli?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Commissioner Brody?
Sir, nothing more.
There we go. See, we had some good discussions tonight. You can see this isn't scripted, you know? Gentlemen, look, thank you for all of our work on the budget, finance, great job as usual. You know, this, again, it's the best budget I think we've had. Library closures totally averted. And it's partly because we had that surplus and we were able to fund it as it needed to be funded. So thank you for that. Our next public business meeting will actually be on Thursday, May 12th. We do have one person signed up to speak tonight, Ms. Ellen Arnone. Please.
I feel like I should be here to thank you for the whole county.
Well, thank you for that. So,
Good evening, and my name is Ellen Arnone. I am representing the Foundation for Frostburg Coal Miner Memorial Statue Fund Committee. I'd like to give you a brief update on the status of our unique project. For the past 10 years, our committee has been researching and writing, creating, and fundraising. Our mission is to honor the historical natural resource of Georges Creek coal and to memorialize the sacrifices made by those who mined. This project is located on county land just north of the Frostburg Depot at the top of the switchback, overlooking the Frostburg trailhead of the Great Allegany Passage. It's the perfect spot overlooking the Jennings Run Valley, where many miners went to work each day with their lunch buckets and their headlamps and their picks and their shovels. And then the trail users, the train riders, the bike riders, visitors will have easy access to this installation that will depict how coal has impacted life in Western Maryland. Our committee has raised over $130,000 in private donations. We have commissioned and purchased the statue, paid for the design and the engineering plans, and paid for the graphic arts work for plaques that describe the demise of 713 miners from 838 to 2007. We believe our work is more like a gift, a pathway for our region, a pathway to educate visitors, to honor our heritage, and to promote tourism. We now know that the cost of this installation will be close to $400,000. But this project is one of a kind. It's shovel-ready. Funding sources are plump. And so for these reasons, we were encouraged to search for additional dollars rather than to slash away the components of the project. Finding the recommended $350,000 is daunting. Our goal is to find $175,000 in matching dollars that could be used in an application for Appalachian Regional Commission and/or appropriate heritage grant funding in early 2023. Although the city of Frostburg listed this project as a municipal priority, we have learned that 2022 ARC discretionary funding will not be coming our way. The city of Frostburg, in response, has indicated that $35,000 to $55,000 may be available for this project. We are hopeful that a portion of Rocky Gap Casino Resort slots revenue might be forthcoming. We are here this evening to ask the county to assist via ARPA funds, open space dollars, hotel, motel funds, any other potential source that would bring to this project a ballpark figure of $75,000. Western Maryland has an interesting history. Our coal fueled the Industrial Revolution. Coal was the impetus for our canal, railroads, the National Road, the founding of Frostburg State University. Approximately 80% of the donors who contributed to the fund to buy Bells Park, where FSU stands today, were impoverished coal miners. So many have learned about our region's mining history also through the committee's publication of 3 miners' recollections books. Over 2,000 books are now in the homes of friends, relatives, and history buffs. We have mailed books to 22 different states, including Alaska and Hawaii. And some family members have learned for the very first time about their ancestors' sweat and toil.
713 men, and this is what will go on the plaques.
That's a copy
I
of
think
the book,
they're
and
there.
also a list of
Thank you.
all 714 miners that have been killed. It has not only their names, but the names of the mines they were killed in, the nature of the accident, and the number of dependents left behind.
Thank you.
Let me just tell you, the dollars have been sent from 21 different states, and 170 zip codes are helping us to create a memorial that will serve as a learning tool and a lasting reminder of Western Maryland's coal mining legacy. 2 of our original committee members, former Allegany County educator and my late husband, Moose Arnone, and his good friend, Ray Walker, former Allegany County Clerk of Court, passed away before they could see this project to completion. Our project exists because of their vision, and contributions in memory of Moose and Ray have strengthened our committee's resolve. The committee has for you, which you've already received this evening, copies of the Minor Recollection Series, as well as a copy of, we're going to show you the artwork that displays 713 names and stories of miners killed in the mines. This is a printed copy of one plaque in the same size as it will appear on a 4-foot by 8-foot panel. up high there will, just one of them. Yes, that's where you have to read it. On this particular plaque is our youngest miner, Charles Alexander Coyle, just 10 years old. Young Charlie was crushed by earth and rock by a cave-in at the Barton Fuel Mine on April the 16th, 1917. We believe in this worthy project, and we hope that you do too. With your help, we can bring this project to fruition. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
So Commissioners, if you don't mind for a second, I can tell you something. You mentioned Rocky Gap funding. I'm actually the chair of the Rocky Gap Local Development Council, and I know you guys reached out to us. The letter is on my desk and getting ready to go out. You guys are going to get $50,000. So that's coming. We should be able to get a check out to you hopefully the next couple of weeks. It just came through, so your timing was actually pretty good.
Sir?
Go ahead. Yeah, we're working on this. We're working on this. You know, I was kind of surprised ARC didn't choose to fund this. You know, it wasn't one of their priorities, but I think that we might be able to get them to reconsider. I don't think that was done federally. I think it was more of a local thing, and I think that's something we can work on.
I'd like to make a motion that we add to that fund $25,000 of Allegany County.
I think that would be a good start, Commissioner. So we'll figure out what we need exactly, but I think that's probably the minimum of what we're gonna need to make this happen. So is there a second to use 25,000 of ARPA?
Could probably use ARPA for that. It should fit.
Second.
All right, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. We'll make that item
Thank you
12.
folks very much.
So that's what we're doing. We're going to reach out to ARC and, you know, try to get them to reconsider that.
When you read the ARC goals, goal number 4, I think, is heritage and cultural development. And underneath there, all three, there are 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. I think I might have sent that along to you.
Yeah.
It's, if you're, this little pack of discretionary dollars is ARC. I'd like to think that they would meet, or want to meet, the same goals as the regular ARC program would. I'm certainly not privy to ARC. I go to Elizabeth Stallman, who goes to Dave Cotton, who goes to Wendy Peters, who comes back to Dave Cotton, who comes back to Elizabeth Stallman, who comes back to me. So it's not one of those easily maneuverable grants that you just write.
Right.
The good news about that, Barb, is Jake talks to Wendy Peters all the time. So I'm sure he will do what he can.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'd love to see it happen if we can have those matching dollars, and we're well on our way.
Yeah, we're
This evening's meeting, we really appreciate that. We do.
yeah, and I think between Frostburg and us and ARC and the Rocky Gap funds we just gave, you know, I think we're going to get this done quickly. It's been too long, Barb. I don't know when the last time was you were here, but it was a while ago.
It has been a while.
Yeah.
Before COVID.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID.
I'm also going to tell you that one of the reasons why Matt Brewer is very, very good at what he does, and your Dan DeWitt is very, very good at what he does.
Thank you.
And it was from their encouragement, you know, if someone says to me, Barb, come up with $1,000, well, I come up with 1,000. If someone says, Barb, come up with 350,000, that's a different story. But they really encouraged us, because they love this project and they think it's so worthwhile, to stick with it. So that's what you've got.
Is there still some state bond money available, or that you haven't used, or?
We have $75,000 match ready for that $75,000 bond.
Okay, gotcha.
Part of our $75,000 match has already been spent because we've had to pay for a few things.
That's what I was so, okay. So it was about 400 and now the gap is like 350-ish? Okay, very good. Or it was until a couple minutes ago. So.
Yeah.
All righty.
Thank you very much.
We're going to keep on that one. Our next public business meeting will be Thursday, May 12th, 5 o'clock. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey,